Hello, friends, and welcome back to the third installment of .NET Weekly Journey. So, right now, I'm going to discuss the continuation from last week. So, I'm going to start this. Yeah. So, the third week, and I am so happy that right now I'm able to fix the multiple target framework moniker or TFM support for Visual Studio Code. But the main agenda is continuation from last week, the tooling, and now the TFM. And now I'm not just going to give you a shorter but more detailed TFM introduction, but also let's try to put this TFM into some samples and in action. So this is me. Yeah, I'm based in Indonesia, and yeah, the plan update so far. You are still in the second part. But last week we discussed the core technologies, and now I'm going to answer about this one and also the application target. It means that target in a sense that what kind of application are you targeting to? Like either you are going to have a console app or either you are going to have a desktop app and other kinds of things like web. But basically, web in the ASP.NET Core is a console app. And now let's start. The new application target like TFM and TFM OS specific. So we already discussed about core CLR, base class libraries, and also TFM. But TFM is more like are you going to develop for desktop or web or many more? You'll see that if time permits. Of course, I'll give you some quick samples. The web is more like very broad topics. Yeah, I mean, you can just develop a web without UI, such as the web API, or web full UI, like a ASP.NET Core MVC. By default, it is using Razor, and many more. We already discussed the SDK, tooling like the .NET executable and .NET tool and so on, the project system, the SDK, and hopefully this video will also discuss streamer, or otherwise we shall continue on the next week. Okay, let's go back to the general architectural composition. I know that this picture is more like a simplified architectural view in terms of the way the general user see. So yeah, we have core CRR, BCR, entity framework, and many things. And what I'm trying to say is this is the basic building of .NET SDK. Actually, this MAUI is more like optional in terms of workload. Well, I'll spend the workload later in the next videos. So we'll have a ASP.NET. This is basically web ASP.NET Core or simply ASP.NET, and then we have a desktop, the WinForms and WPF, and then we have MAUI. MAUI is more like a not just desktop, but also you can develop for mobile like Android, iOS. Of course, you can also develop for desktop. We have a compatibility for desktop on Windows and Linux. And then also you have a way to run the MAUI inside macOS, for example. And having this desktop on Windows and macOS, This is why the TFM is becoming more and more relevant in a sense that you cannot ignore it. If you just, I know that if you are just using Visual Studio file, new project, you create the WPF and WinForms using NET Core, it is, yeah, it is easy. But then when you are trying to migrate your existing app from NET Framework to WPF, you'll see that it is very, very relevant. And let me show you why. So the next one, we already know that we have TFM, standardized token format, for specifying the target framework of a .NET app or library. One thing is missing is TFM since .NET 5.0 also have more like an extensible name that defines the target operating system, which I'm going to show you in the next slide. So this is a very simple sample. We have NET 8.0, for example. It's cross-platform, like your code, as long as it is not related to any operating system specific, can run nicely between Windows, Linux, Android, and so on, so on, so on. So we have NET 8.0 as the TFM. After that, if you are going to run our WPF or WinForms, you need Windows, of course, because WinForms is Windows Forms. It basically comes from the .NET Framework, and WPF is also comes from the .NET Framework, Windows Presentation Foundation, which is basically only runs on Windows. This is why .NET 8.0 is actually a more specific version of TFM only for Windows. .NET 8.0 iOS in this sample is also only for iOS. And then we have also more specific, more detailed version. Let's say we have a NET 8.0 Windows 10.0, and we also have NET 8.0 Windows 7.0, and for iOS version 15.0. And this is somehow confusing at first, but having this kind of specific is also gives you more power in a sense that you can directly know what's going on when you are developing your code. And it is also important in a sense that you have to be careful on your development activity. In okay, let's say you are develop WinForms. Of course, you have to avoid any non-Windows specific. Like in Linux, you have a fork API, for example. But also, some things may not be available on Windows, only available on other kinds of target operating system. Fortunately, you will always be protected by having this OS specific in the sense that your code, if you have more OS specific like this one, you can have more power instead of more restricted version. Like you can access Windows Registry API, which is already wrapped in a nice way in a code that only can run on Windows only, and that code is being available for us if you have this kind of TFM, like 8.0-Windows. So let's have a quick demo. I'm going to go back to here. And I'm also going to demo you to create a new project directly from command prompt as part of the .NET new. So Let's go to the source folder, and we have hello.net console as the CS project. Now I'm going to create a new .NET, let's say WinForms.NET new. If I uh, try to look at the list of the available template that I have on NET 8.0 is this one. So let's create a WinForms. WinForms is Windows Forms. And now we have here Windows Forms app.NET new WinForms. Let's give the project name. Name is sample WinForms NET X0. And let the tooling do the magic. You see that it creates the folder and then creates the CS project. Now we have a nice WinForms. So let's go back to the higher folder. And I'm going to add that CS project into the existing console. So yeah, I know the name of the solution is wrong. We could rename it later. So I just use the .NET SLN, meaning to manage solution files. And let's see. I know that I remember some of the option, but we can look for, we have a add, list, and remove. So let's just use add.NET SLN, the name of the solution, of course. Like we see .NET SLN, the name of the solution, and the command and option. We will use add, and let's use the project path. Let's add this project into hello.NET console. It's added, and then let's see from VS Code view. We have here. Okay, now we have two, and like I mentioned before, this sales project is targeting for WinForms, and the TFM is 8.0-Windows. We have here the good old WinForms, the designer one, and we have the good old STA thread, single threaded apartment, and also we have a application configuration dot initialize application dot run with the form that we are going to run at the first place. Of course, having this in Visual Studio Code, you don't have a designer support. And then let's try to open this inside Visual Studio. I'll just open this one, and let's go to, okay, open, and let's get it up. Where is it? And this one. Yeah. And you'll see that we will have two projects here, and this one is the WinForms. You see that it has plus, it means that it is just added because I haven't committed this yet. And you see that it opens directly the CS project. All of the SDK project is open directly inside Visual Studio if we click it, and If I double click this guy, we'll have a designer support. Let's wait for a while. This may take a little bit quite some time because initially it will try to load the toolbar on the left. Okay, it's by default. It seems not shown. I'm going to show it now. But if you create a .NET framework WinForms compared to this one, it is different. I don't know why it is not showing here, but the designer is actually display the .NET framework designer. The actual designer for .NET Core is not hosted directly inside the Visual Studio. Why? Because Visual Studio is using .NET Framework and the designer of this guy is using .NET Framework. So it is WPF. Visual Studio is by default is the biggest WPF app as far as I know. But the way it displays the designer support for WinForms is basically display using .NET Framework. And all of the modification is using some kind of out of process mechanism. I will describe this or discuss this later. But right now, I'll show you that we could still have the toolbox here. Let's see, where is it? Where's toolbars? No, not toolbars. It should be something like mm, components or whatever. Hmm, why is it not showing? ah, tools. View. Not this one. View. Yeah, this one. Toolbox. So this is the toolbox, but this toolbox is different from the .NET Framework toolbox. Of course, you can still have um, common controls or components such as button, checkbox, text box, bridge text box, and so on, so on, so on. But I can guarantee you this is not the same as the way you develop in .NET Framework. Okay, let's just put this here. We'll have some delay. Okay, and just make it or change hello WinForms in netx 0 and save it, and let's run it. Oh, I have to change the default solution or project to run. It is still pointing to the .NET console. I'll make this as the set as startup project. Run again. I have here Docker desktop, but it is not yet running. I usually use this to develop app in ASP.NET with the containerized model. So I think I will disable this for now. Okay, we have WinForms. I'll close this down. And if we view code here, you could still see the WinForms here. And we are not seeing, using, because this guy is also use implicit usings. Implicit using by default is enabled. And the other thing is the designer.cs is still the same, and there is no quite large difference with the old one. Only you don't see using some namespace by default. You also have a system and other things such as I think if I'm not mistaken, system.winforms. So let's see if I could just view code here, and if I create a button, yeah, it seems like the copilot is in action. Button equals to new button. So you see, this button usually I have to specify system.windows.forms. Right now, I could just button. So system.windows.forms is also part of the implicit using of this WinForms project. So let's go back to the CS parts. You see that we have net0-windows. You see that the output type is WinExe, meaning that it is a Windows executable. Yeah, this is a Windows executable. So we have macOS, we have WinForms, WPF. Of course, macOS only run on Apple macOS, and WPF and WinForms only runs on Windows. What what I'm trying to say is now we are having these TFM with the OS or operating system specific, such as Windows, iOS, macOS. And also, I've mentioned that you can also target for S370. Honestly, I don't know what would be the exact TFM. I or maybe I could not remember it. I've seen it before, but it may or may not have specific OS. Now, the problem is this. Okay, let's go back to the slide. We have Windows and macOS, iOS, and I'll show you. I'll enlarge this guy from current slide. Okay, Shift F5. I just click it. So why there is no TFM for Linux? This comes from the original design of TFM. Starting from 5.0, you have all specific, but there is no NET 5.0-Linux. Why? Because the primary center is to varying API source, not for varying behavior. Runtime identifier or RIDs, all of varying behavior and have support for various Linux flavors. Specifically, TFM aren't primarily meant to allow calling pinfolk under if. Most of the time, that should be done by doing runtime checks or just by using RIDs. The primary reason for TFM is to exclude large amount of managed representation for OS technologies, such as WinForms, WPF, Apple's NS API, Android, and so on and so on. Also, Android, iOS, macOS, and Windows share that they offer a stable application binary interface or API, so that exchanges binaries make sense. Linux itu generic of a concept for that is basically just the kernel, which again boils down to the only thing you can do is just calling pinfolk. We know that Linux is not a truly operating system in the sense that you have to check the distribution of the Linux itself, like Ubuntu, Red Hat, or you can have a SUSE or SUSE. I don't know how to spell it correctly for now. And other distros such as Slackware or maybe um, CentOS, maybe. But I think CentOS is also in a sense that it can be seen as the variant of Red Hat. So this is why you cannot have NET X0-Linux. Okay, you can have net net x0 dash Ubuntu, and many things. So, but we should do our research first, because it can be that the distro that you are using now may or may not be available as TFM. Okay, let's just do some quick check here. See that the link to that accept is accepted in net file, .md. So this repo .NET Designs is repo for any kinds of .NET design ideas. I mean, in a sense, for the .NET platform itself, not for any kinds of design for the C Sharp, F Sharp, VB, and also smaller subsets such as WPF, WinForms, or others such as ASP.NET. No, this is for the whole holistic view of .NET as a platform. And the link is this. So let's click this and see. You'll see that why is the net is still mapped to net core app. Well, it should be, yeah, this one. No TFM for Linux. Okay, this is the idea, and originally it was proposed in 2020 that we have here. Then, if we see that this is only available as the markdown page, unfortunately, and as far as I know, this is not available in the official documentation, meaning that you have to go directly inside this repo to find out. So we have here like the form of the TFM. TFM doesn't contain an OS. TFM has an OS but no OS version, and has both OS and OS version. So this is the most generic or general thing to more specific in terms of the operating system and also operating system and the version. We'll see that we have iOS 13.0. And if I'm not mistaken, this iOS 13.0 is not supported anymore for NET 8.0. And let's try to dive further. I'm going to check this and see whether I could find the SDK. So let's go to the SDK. And try to find some JSON files. So if I'm not mistaken, I should see some OS or whatever, or supported OS maybe. Supported. Supported platform. No, this is not what I'm trying to search. Okay, let's just search for JSON and see, can we have a way to see the supported one? Let's see all result. src. Oh no, I just want to look for JSON. Let's see, source mapping, tools, template, so on. last one. Oh, let's just look for um, hmm, go back, go back, go back. I don't have this one. Supported platform. No. Hmm. Is it this one? Hmm? Okay. Can I search this? Supported. Oh, this one. But this is for release node in. Okay. Let's. Can I find OS? Supported OS. I should. Supported OS. Let's look at this. Okay, this is NET 7.0 supported OS versions. Um, mhm, mhm. Glib. So we have here out of support for NET 7.0. Let's see if we could find X0. There you are. Okay. And oh, okay, we have the markdown. That's good. Long term. File is generated for supervised and this. Okay. You see that the iOS 13 is not supported, or maybe I'm wrong. iOS, iOS, hmm, iOS. Yep, it is not supported anymore for iOS 13. So 8.0. Okay, now you'll see that the OS and the version is very, very important. And normally, when I'm developing WinForms, I am not seeing like I have to like specific versions. But let's say I want to limit this app to only runs on Windows 10 and later version. I could just have this one, and hopefully I have the correct syntax here. Let's see. And can I still compile this guy? Oh, there you are. I have a error that says, okay, I have to use the full version. Okay, we have 10.0 dot blah blah blah. Let's say I'm going to use the 10.0 that I know that I often use is 10.0.22.0.0.0. I'll just use this one. 10.0.22 dot 22.0.0.0 dot 0. And let's try to compile this again. Am I going to get the same error? Hopefully it should be okay to compile. Yes. So now you have a TFM with this specific operating system version. like this one. And now you'll see that this is one sample of TFM. I'm using Windows. Of course, I could still have some ways to specify more than one target frameworks. Let's, for example, make this with S to make it as a plural. So I could still make this as use the old one that we see before. And we have two different target. Yeah, of course, I have to reload again the project. Reload or put empty, of course. Usually I just clean it and then rebuild it or just build. It's the same. See, I can still compile it, but let's look at the resulting folders. You'll see that I have netx0-windows with the specific version, and I have netx0 windows. And let's see here, we could choose between these two, and let's try to run this 10.0 to see that it is still supported or not. Yeah, and let's try to run this guy. Yep, I could still run it. I have to say at first, unfortunately, when you run the app, you cannot see the target TFM. Yeah, you see that it is targeted on Windows, but the version number that I specify in the CS procs, there's no way that we could find it when it is run. That kind of information somehow is more like a SDK specific instead of runtime specific or on SDK and runtime. But feel free to correct me if I'm wrong because as far as I don't know how to get that kind of okay, I'm running on 8.0 as the runtime, but I don't know how to ensure that this app only runs on Windows 10 with the version or build number of 10.0.22.0.0.0. I don't know how to get that when it is running. So that shows the TFM in action. I have shown you the TFM without any kinds of operating system. I have shown you TFM with the OS and also the OS and the version. And you may say that well, now that you have mentioned it, maybe it will complicate my development activity. I say it will not because consider this. So let's say you are facing some fact that Microsoft will or has stated that it will not support some versions. For example, we are now in 2024 on July. Microsoft is not supporting Windows 7, Windows X0, Windows X1, and also it will not support Windows 10 with the version of I think 1503, 1607. That kind of version is not supported anymore. The version that we have here, Windows 10 0.22.0.0.0, if I'm not mistaken, I think it is. Let me see. Maybe I have to cheat to look for that version number. I'm afraid Windows 10 version list in order, or build version list, because I need to find the corresponding marketing name such as 21H1, 21H2 with the actual build numbers. Let's see, we have here release information. The final version of Windows 10 is version 22H2. Yeah, reach end of servicing on October 14, which means that yeah, we still support 2282. This means 2022 second half. So let's see the build number. I'm afraid we cannot find the build number here. Okay, we have it. So let's see 21H1. 21H1 is version S 1904. So it's more like it's more like Windows 11 maybe. So let's look at 22H2. 22H2. The confusing things about Windows 11, the version is starting from 10. So if I go back here, you see, I'm using Windows 10, but the version number is 10.0.22631, blah, blah, blah. I'm afraid that 22000 is Windows 11, but let's see. So let's go back to here. Let's go with 21H2 maybe. Um, why do I have no list of that? End of servicing. Okay. Then I don't have that, I'm afraid. Known issues. 22H2. 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 Issue detail. This documentation. Okay. Update is 19043. 19043 issue details. Okay. 22H2. This is confusing. Oh, known issues. Let's see the release information. There should be okay. We have there you are. So I'm afraid that 22000 is 21H2. Personally, I will not try to memorize all of these versing numbers, but again, yeah, it will be useful for you if you can memorize. But I think it's better for me to just bookmark this page. Yeah. So we have 22000. Let's go back to the original error. Uh, can we see the original error? Let's make it as a this one and recompile it and see whether there should be okay. You'll see that it has version of 20348 19041. I think this guy, I'll just copy this on a notepad. Notepad. Let's see. Yeah, we have. I remember now. This guy 18362 is Windows 10 actually. Okay, so it is not sorted. Fine, but what I'm trying to say is you cannot have this kind of version, so you have to be more specific. Let's say if you are only focusing on targeting at least version this one. So I'll go back to just visit here, compile it again. Should be fine. Now you have a working version. Yep, that's it. Now you have a correct one. And the next one is how am I going to prove that there should be target for, let's say, Linux? Let's see. Let's go back to the original supported OS, JSON. Let's see, is there any specific version of Ubuntu maybe? We have Ubuntu, and the supported one is 34.04, 23. And can we have the specific? Let's see directly the JSON. Hmm. So this is interesting. Like we have Apple and Apple tvOS, Linux. Linux we have Alpine, CentOS Debian, Fedora, and also OpenSUSE. Um, hmm, Ubuntu. We have Ubuntu, and we have Windows. Okay, now we have the detail of that. It doesn't really mention the list of the TFM, I'm afraid. Okay, let's try to look for that. Can we have list? Can we have this? Hopefully, we can have it. I mean, I want to have a list of specific TFM, and there is no Linux, I'm afraid. You can only have a Windows, Android browser. Yeah, this is for the WASM WebAssembly. Uh, yeah, I'm afraid there is no Ubuntu. Okay, OS version. Yeah, there is no Ubuntu. It seems that the one that I mentioned before in the slide still valid. You know that this is related to more like a operating system with the feature specific. Like you have Android, you have Windows. TPV is target platform version, but this is wrong. So because I believe .NET 8 is not supporting Windows 7, I'm afraid. Okay, let's do some nasty thing. Does it still support Windows 7? I don't know, but let's see. Uh, uh, if you are doing this like me, like trying some new things, you'll see that you have the broader knowledge on what's going on. So let's say if I'm going to make this as more than 2 TFM, we have 3, only Windows, and now Windows 7 and Windows 10. Let's try to compile this guy and see. Do I have a valid one? Okay. Hmm. So right now I could not have Windows 7. Or is it just Windows 7? Let's check on the supported OS thing. Oh, okay. There is no Windows 7. Hmm. Only 10. Hmm. Okay. So I could not have Windows 7. This is why I mentioned to you that this default TPV I think is misleading. Why? When you mentioned this is supposed to be 7.0, but by specifying the 7.0 as the version, you will have error when you do the compile. Okay, maybe it is time for me to make this as a suggestion or correction, and I'll try to register this as a suggestion or correction after this video. But now, okay, it says here if I use NET 6.0, default is Windows 7.0. Okay, let's see. You know that we have this list of SDK. So .NET list SDKs. I have 5.0, 6.0, 8.0. So 7.0 it seems uninstalled by preview installation of Visual Studio 2022. I did it 2 days ago. And okay, let's go back to the uh, more list using info. I still have 7.0. Maybe I have to uninstall it manually. But right now I have 6.0. 6.0 means that I could use WinForms, of course, because WinForms in NetCore is available since NET 3.0, which means I could use it. But now I'm going to try to have it more like a TFM with OS. Let's see if I could have a 6.0 here with Windows 7. I think I could still have it. Let's try. If I put it now, you see, it is okay. This means that 6.0 still support Windows 7. And I could not compile this against NET 7 because I don't have NET 7. But my point is, yeah, there is some kind of a target platform version by default. And I think this is wrong because, again, .NET 8, as we see here, does not support Windows 7, Windows 8. Only support some version of Windows 10 and also Windows 11. Therefore, I conclude that, yeah, this list is misleading, I'm afraid. So, okay, this is, yeah, that again, we now see that TFM is important one. It's also relevant in a sense that if you are just doing development only on ASP.NET or console, you don't have to worry about TFM with the OS and also TFM with the OS and the version specific. But then when you start to migrate, let's say your old code base, because originally ASP.NET in .NET Framework also runs on Windows, maybe you have some code that still access Windows registry, then you will have compile errors. The nice thing about when we are having compile errors, like I have shown you before, if I use 10.0 without any version specific, it tells us that yeah, it is not compatible, because then I have to specify the version in detail. There should be a list of that kind of version. Unfortunately, I could not find on these release notes, because it doesn't really show you what really happens on the TFM. We need to find the information that says, okay, we have this version on the TFM list. So yeah, that would be my next discussion for next week's video. Something that I'm going to demo again. It may be I maybe break something else when I try this VS Code. Let's go back to the previous week problems on trying to run this. In here, there is no that launch.json task or whatever anymore. It's just this kind of launch.json, and settings is there by default. It tries to tell you, okay, default solution is this guy. What I'm trying to show you is you don't have to specify anything, as long as you, oh, hang on, something needs to be updated. Okay, I'm not going to update it right now. So we have you should install this extension, C# devkit, and let's go back to here. Where is it? Yeah. Then go back to program CS and Control Shift P. If I select launch configuration, you see that launch.json doesn't have anything, but now it can detect. Okay, I have a NET 6.0, I have NET 8.0 on this hello.net console. Let's say, I would like to know something. Let's say if I go through here, we have more than 2 TFM. Can I still have that kind of launch configuration? Select. No. Okay. I don't have that kind of configuration. Uh, this is, let's try to rebuild it. There you are. Can I still have that kind of launch configuration? Select one. Okay. I could not have that. Okay, I'll try to maybe clean this. Can I have clean? Clean. I could not clean. View, run. Or can I just right click this guy? Okay, I have clean. Maybe I should close Visual Studio first. It may interfere with something. Can I still see this? Control Shift E. So it is not available. Okay. define cycle pin, and also this guy. Delete this recycle bin. The obj continue, and I have UAC warning. Yeah. Okay, this is interesting. It seems like this WinForms project is somehow not supported, but the console is supported. Okay, just to prove to you that using this launch configuration, it seems cannot be used for other than full cost platform. Uh, okay, let's just go for NetX0 and run it. It should show NetX.0 as the output. Okay, we have X07 as the runtime, which is correct. And I select launch configuration again and choose 60. Run it without debugging. I should have 6032, which is correct. I don't know why the output is not showing here anymore. Okay, now I have a correct runtime. There is a problem here. Oh, it's just okay. Misspell something. I will just ignore it. That's it. That concludes this week videos, and it seems that it is 1 hour. Yeah, this already bugs me a lot, and yeah, this video of course is supposed to be on Thursday, but I have to upload it on my Saturday. So apologize for that. But at least right now I can have this multi-target. Only the strange thing is it doesn't know how to treat this guy. You see that output type is exe this guy, and this one is WinExe. Maybe I don't know why. Maybe it could not support WinExe, but honestly, I don't have any enough information for this kind of non-console inside VS Code. Thank you. Don't forget to like and subscribe. And also, if you like this and you feel that okay, something is not correct, everyone is doing something wrong, feel free to comment on my video. I welcome comment and feedback, of course, especially if you are going to have constructive feedback. This doesn't mean that all I do is never mind. Yeah, in daily development activity, this is not important. But I could show you, especially if you are starting from non-net core like I did. I'm coming from net framework work, and then I have to migrate many of the code base that's still based on net framework, move it to net core, and I have many kinds of problems. Especially, for example, when you are developed in ASP.NET in the .NET Framework and you are creating the web services. You know that the initial version of the .NET Framework is using ASMX for web services, right? And you cannot have that in ASP.NET Core because ASMX by default will use SOAP as the payload of your web services. It is actually HTTP, but you wrap the request in a XML format that has to comply with SOAP at least 1.1 or 1.2, if I'm not mistaken. That is not available on .NET Core. There is a way to do that, but I think the easiest way just to migrate the business logic directly to the .NET Core and unfortunately, you may have to leave some logic only specific on ASMX, I'm afraid, especially when you are dealing with the soap. Feel free to ask me about that. I know how to migrate, but I don't know the exact detail on what you are going to do. I mean, as far as I know, there is no easy way to directly migrate the infrastructure of translating those soap and unpacking it and then try to construct the object that is being written on that soap XML format. It's like you are going to deserialize and then ensure that the object has the correct values. When you create the calls, it's easy. Okay, you just calls using the SOAP. But when you are receiving the call, receiving the request, you have to ensure that the SOAP payload you have is correctly translated. So for now, that will be in maybe long-term videos if you only if you ask it, because it will be more than one episode just to discuss how to migrate that unfit. I'll see you, and don't forget to like and subscribe. This has been a nice journey for me as well, and I hope it will be a nice journey for you. I'll see you next week. Bye bye.